After 30 years of After 30 years of waiting, fans of the Monkey Island series finally got a dream come true in the form of a new Ron Gilbert game, Return to Monkey Island. And ever since, my YouTube comments have been full of people asking me to make a video about it. So why is this game such a big deal for people? Wasn't the true secret of Monkey Island cleared up years ago? And why do people care what I think of all people? And why did Return to Monkey Island leave me absolutely sobbing at the end of it? Well, to understand, let's recap.
In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth.
No, not that far. To 1990. This man, Ron Gilbert, leads a team who create The Secret to Monkey Island. It's a fantastic game, but never a commercial success.
Hi, my name's Gilbert and I want to be a pirate.
In 1992, they release a whopper of a sequel, LeChuck's Revenge. It has a really weird ending that leaves everyone confused.
This is weird. What's going on here?
Well, come on then. Let's go ride the madly rotating Buccaneer.
Yeah.
Shortly after, Ron leaves Lucasfilm, meaning we never get a proper explanation. Other teams come along and create their own Monkey Island games that invent their own explanations. And fast forward to 2010, and I'm trying to create my own Monkey Island meets the Bible Old Testament adventure game. I created a couple of Monkey Island videos in a vain attempt to raise awareness, and over the years they've had quite a lot of views. By the way, they're pretty interesting, you should watch them. And finally, on to 2020, Ron Gilbert announces he's making a new game, Return to Monkey Island, and fans across the world, me included, are over the moon. Well, we're finally going to get the explanation we'd been craving. And that brings us up to where we are now. So what did I make of it? From the outset, I want to say that Return to Monkey Island is glorious. I absolutely loved it. I especially loved getting to play it slowly with my kids over the course of a few weeks. We played about 30 minutes each morning before getting them ready for school. Ron and his team have learnt a lot over the years about what makes for a good adventure game, and conversely about what leads to needless frustration. And sure, just like the first game did, it had its flaws, but I don't feel the need to catalogue those here. The prologue in particular just oozed charm, and it had me and my kids in absolute fits of laughter all the way through. The game itself works pretty hard to avoid setting you up for bitter disappointment when you finally reach the conclusion.
I'm gonna find the secret of Monkey Island.
It'll turn out to be a t-shirt or something.
When you've waited 30 years for something, of course the reality can never live up to that hype.
Somehow it was more exciting before I knew that.
That is true of many things.
And from the gameplay trailer, it was fairly obvious to me that we shouldn't expect a long and detailed exploration of Guybrush's family history. The story just didn't seem to be heading in that direction. Spoiler alert, but when you eventually do discover the great secret of Monkey Island,
Interesting.
of course it turns out just to be a stupid t-shirt.
I found the secret of Monkey Island, and all it was this stupid t-shirt.
How could it not? But for me, it was not that ending that got me. It was what happened next. The scrapbook gets updated with a delightful retelling of a story you've just enjoyed and the characters you met along the way. And then there's this curious note, sealed R
Wait,
and D.
what's this?
In other words, Ron Gilbert and Dave Grossman. As I started to read it, the tears just started flowing. My youngest son declared, "This is boring," and ran off. But in truth, I was really glad to be able to enjoy reading that in privacy. And by the end, I was absolutely blubbing for a good half hour afterwards. To me, it's this letter that is the real treasure. They explain how the games have always been semi-autobiographical. Their own excitement at setting out on a new career as game designers is mirrored in Guybrush's youthful exuberance. And then after something that felt like such a huge success but was somewhat unappreciated, how do you top that? Return to Monkey Island then is a story of someone who feels somewhat defined by their connection to the secret of Monkey Island and with unfinished business to resolve. The game deliberately leaves room for you to read your own answers into it.
There isn't any one answer to what the secret is.
And I couldn't help but see the parallels with my own life. In my own small way, my identity as a YouTube publisher was closely bound up with The Secret. I too had unfinished business in the form of my Bible adventure game, which thankfully is now well underway, although still unresolved. But the letter also massively humanises Ron and Dave, and reminds us that in our desperation to know the secret, let's not forget that they too are real people with real feelings. I think that's part of what made all the criticism of the new art style so hurtful. And by the way, I think the new game looks amazing. But what of all our unanswered questions? Does the new game add any clarity?
The secret is mine!
I could be wrong, but I think the game hints pretty strongly that Guybrush was the janitor or flooring inspector of a theme park, longing to be part of something greater.
Well, back to my boring flooring inspector job. Until next time.
But it's also done gently in a way that means people who hate that idea aren't left feeling like everything they loved about Monkey Island has been ripped away from them. Guybrush and LeChuck are like spiritual brothers, bound to one another as they both desperately seek the same treasure, their paths destined to keep crossing. And as for the rest, well, sometimes a silly line of dialogue really is just a line of dialogue, thrown in for a laugh, without intending to imply some grand conspiracy. I, for one, am really glad that Ron finally got his shot at making another game, and I loved every minute of it. At the end of the day, it was his story to tell, and he got to do it his way. And I got to make some fantastic memories with my kids along the way. Arr, me hearties, return to Monkey Island. Arr.